Okay, everyone, it's time for us to get going again with our last session for today. And we're going to jump in, and this is going to be a fairly quick session. There's still quite a bit I just want to cover with you on all the other journals. So strap yourselves into your seat there. We're going to go pretty quick. With this last session. Remember, as always, this is just to kind of touch on certain aspects again. Please, you need to still go to class and make sure you do your more detailed work at home. And yes, our session is being recorded, but please check in with your lecturer if they haven't yet told you where to find the recordings. That you just make sure if you do want to go and check things again, or some of those little exercises, remember, that I've been telling you about throughout the session, so that you'll know where to go and look for these recordings. Please make sure you sign our register as well. For us. And then, sorry, I'm going to just stop sharing for a minute just to get us back to the slide where we were before the break. So remember, you had a little bit of break homework to do. I see many of you did post the correct answer in the chats while we were on the break. So I'm just trying to find that homework question. So right, let's okay, Salama, is it? Oh, no, I'm still back to the same slide. Sorry about that, Kat. Okay, now, sorry, I'm just going to have to jump ahead quickly to where we were. Okay, so you had the homework. You had to balance that bank account for us in the break. Many of you did get the correct answer in what you've posted for us. Why I particularly use that bank account for us in our little practice was just remember again, the bank account is one of the very few general ledger accounts that can sometimes have a debit balance and sometimes a credit, depending whether we have money in the bank or whether the bank is in overdraft. So I chose this one for your practice just to show you the uniqueness of the bank account. Because when the question starts, it has a credit balance at the beginning of that month. But by the end of the month, we have got more cash received, and then we actually have a debit bank balance. So that is unique. Bank and VAT control for first year purposes are really the only two accounts that can behave like this. All your other accounts will be strictly debit or strictly credit based on your normal dead click rules. Okay, so if you, sorry, just let me just go back to that one slide. Yeah, so remember, most of your general ledger accounts should fall into your typical dead click rules with assets, expenses, and drawings increasing on the debit side and liabilities, income, and capital on the credit side. But just be aware, bank and VAT control, they sometimes behave a little bit different. Okay, so that was balancing the account. There we go. Okay, so at home, as part of your revision now and as part of your practice, you can go and do example 4.1, that's all your cash journals. Example 4.2, that's posting to the general ledger. And example 4.3, that's the trial balance. So those are all excellent examples then to help you with revising your cash journals, your general ledger, and your trial balance. Okay, I wanted at this point now just to show you a couple of ways in which students have been tested on the cash journals in past papers, so that you can just kind of be familiar or just have a chance to see that there's different ways in which we can ask you about your cash journals. So this first one, this comes from the 2022 exam, and this is just the straightforward one. Okay, so in this type of question, we give you a list of transactions And then we ask you to prepare certain journals from the transactions that took place during the month. So this one is by far the most straightforward one. This is just giving you transactions for the month and then asking you to prepare certain journals from those transactions. And here again, I've posted the answer for you. So if you want to go and practice this question, then you can circle back here later and then you can come and mark yourself quickly against this answer for the cash book receipts. So we're not going to go through it now, but you can circle back here later. So it's about 15 minutes into the recording, or rather, no, it's about 6 minutes into the recording that you can then come back to look at this answer. Remember again our tips that we've been sharing this morning. So remember again, when we ask you to do questions now in the test, in the exam, that your tip number 2A, make sure you know which inventory system is being used by your business. And then remember your other tip number 6, is when you look at the individual transaction to see is the amount including that, excluding that, or is it one of those zero-rated, exempt, or non-allowable items. Okay, so make sure you keep talking yourself through all our little tips as you're sitting there in the exam venue. Are you making sure you're sticking to your time? Do you know the inventory system? Do you know, is it a gross margin? Is it a markup? And then when it comes to the individual transaction, do you know, does the amount include, exclude, VAT, etc.? Then a second way that we have tested students on the journals before, this comes from the 2023 test. And in this particular question, we gave the student the cash book receipts. And then we asked them to explain to us what type of transactions were recorded in this cash book. And again, you can see we also asked the student about the source document and was it an original or a duplicate. So this one now you can see we've taken the traditional question and sort of turned it on its head. Because in this previous example, we give you the transactions and we ask you to do the cash book receipts. In this next example, we give you the cash book receipts and we ask you to tell us what kind of transactions and source documents were used to prepare the cash book. Okay, so that's just a different way of asking you a question about a cash book receipts. Again, here is the solution to that question. So this is the 2023 test question number 2. So again, if you want to go and practice these types of questions, you can come back then to the solution. And you can see again, I've given you the source documents and I've told you, is it an original or is it a duplicate when it comes to the source documents? And remember, that is the information on page 107 in your textbook. That's a really good page for source documents. Then a third way in which we've tested students before on a cash book receipts is again the scenario where we give you a already completed cash book receipts. And this was last year's semester test. And the student is given the cash book receipts. And again, we just kind of ask them certain questions about the cash book. So we, for example, ask them to calculate some of the missing numbers. We can also ask them to provide some of the details. Maybe even some of the documents. So again, we kind of give you the cash book receipts, but then we ask you to either fill in the gaps, or we ask you, for example, we might ask you, why is there not an amount in the analysis of receipts column for day 1? And then you need to give us the reason for it. And if you want to look in your textbook for similar types of questions, you can look at question 4.5 and 5.3. Those are actually really excellent questions where they have a similar types of questions like the one that was in last year's semester test. Okay, so that was just 3 different ways in which in the past we have tested students on their understanding of cash book receipts. Now we're going to move over to the credit journals. Salama, before I get to the credit journals, is there anything you would like just to add for our students?
No, sorry, I was just busy responding to a question for the student here. Okay, regarding the journals again, most important thing I also try to tell the students is also, I think many of them when they are not, like I also had a question now from this specific student, is they're not, sometimes they don't understand or they don't know that table again and are not able to identify the source documents. Okay, that will help them to know which transactions go into which journal. So again, maybe just a reminder here again of what you shared earlier in for Learning Unit 4 is the source documents that they need to know for the credit journals, that for the creditors journal and the creditors allowances, remember it's original credit invoice, and for the creditors allowance it's in the original credit note, because sometimes in the test they could actually you the source document, and that could also guide you as to know that that is the transaction that should go to that specific journal. And for the debtors journal, it will be the duplicate credit invoice. So please also, very important for theory questions or for practical, that you know your source documents, because that will also guide you as to know that this transaction must go into the journal, debtors allowance, creditors allowance, or for the general journal, more specifically, it's the journal voucher. So it's very important that you know your source documents for your specific journals. Okay, thank you, Ina. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the page is page 107. I've put it in the chats for you as well. That, as I said before, I've got another slide on page 107. We'll get to it in a few minutes, but that page is really gold. So please make sure you study your page 107. Okay, so we're going to look now look through our credit journals. So remember, these are now the credit transactions. So transactions where we buy now and pay later, or where we let our customers buy now and pay later. So in these transactions, there's no cash. All of these are either credit purchases, credit sales. So there's no money that at this point is changing hands. So our creditors journal, of course, this is now where we record all credit purchases. So anything that the business buys on credit, whether it's inventory, stationery, equipment, it doesn't matter. Any credit purchases will be recorded here. And again, because it's a journal, we're looking for detail. So you can see we're looking for names of creditors. So what is the name of the creditor where you bought these items? The creditors control column is now your key and most important column. And this will be the column including VAT, because it will be the total amount that is owed to the creditor. We have a trading inventory column if we are using perpetual inventory, and that will be excluding VAT. We've got VAT input here. That will be your 15% VAT. And then we have our sundry columns, and this is for other credit purchases. Okay, so for other credit purchases, so not inventory, anything else that you've also bought on credit. And then remember again, this journal, the headings will change depending on the inventory system used by the business. If it is periodic inventory, we'll talk about purchases. And if it is perpetual inventory, then we'll use inventory or trading inventory as our heading. Our creditors allowance journal looks very similar, but this is now when we return to the creditor or to the supplier items that is maybe it was damaged, maybe it wasn't exactly what we had ordered, and then we return it to our creditor. And in this one, we are once again going to have a trading inventory column if it is perpetual inventory, or a purchases returns column if it is periodic inventory. Again, the same as with our cash journals. If you go to your textbook, Learning Unit number 5, pages 141 and 142 of your 2025 textbook, again, they give you a detailed discussion of what must be entered into each column of a particular journal. Right, so remember your trading inventory column is the one excluding VAT. Your sundry amounts is excluding VAT. Again, you can double check yourself by adding the totals of your columns together, and that must give you your total of your creditors control column. And again, this journal will get posted to the general ledger. And we're going to post it as follows. We're going to credit the creditors control. These are all your credit purchases, so it will increase the amount that we owe our creditors. So that's why we're going to credit the creditors control. And then all the other accounts we are going to debit, your trading inventory, your input VAT, and then all the other sundry items that we bought on credit. So again, if you want to look at it in the general ledger, it looks like this. So you can see there in my creditors control, that's my total credit purchases for the month. And then the debit entries goes to the input VAT, the trading inventory or purchases, depending on your inventory system. And in this example, it also goes to the equipment account. And then my total debits do equal my total credits. And again, you can see I'm working with totals here because I'm in the general ledger. So I'm not recording the individual purchases. So if we just go back here, you can see I'm not going to record again VC stores and RC traders, because that detail is now already in the creditors journal. Now, when I move into the general ledger, I only move forward with that total. So I only use that total, that 143750, and I take that to the creditors control account. I think Salama will agree with me when we mark tests and exams. That is a mistake students often make, is that when they come to their general ledger, they want to start working with all the detail again. And remember now, the detail is now already in your journal. So you don't now need to bring the detail to the general ledger again. If you want to practice these kinds of journals, then please work through example 5.1 and question 5.8 deals specifically with perpetual inventory and with a creditor's journal, a cash book payments, and a creditor's allowances journal. So if you need more exercises to practice, then please look at these questions and example. Then our debtors journal, remember this is now where we're going to record the credit sales of inventory only. Okay, so this journal is only credit sales and it's only sales of inventory. Okay, so again, that's where that page 107 is so important, because it tells you exactly what type of transaction must go into each one of your journals. And again, in this journal, if your business is using perpetual inventory, then we will have a cost of sales column so that we are able to calculate the cost of sales at point of sale. So each time we make a credit sale, we also quickly going to work out the cost of sales. Again, your textbook has got all your columns and all your explanations ready there for you. But I think this is the slide everyone has been waiting for this morning. This is the one where we're going to quickly see if you do still remember how to do your markup and gross margin calculations. So this is a little exercise then. This is a debtor's journal, and I want to see if you can still remember all your Learning Unit 3 calculations. So this is the point now where Salama and I are going to sit back. We're going to take a sip of tea, and we're going to put the work now into your hands. So can everyone quickly again take out your calculators, your pen and your paper, and see if you can calculate those 3 cost of sales for me. And then for that last one, if you can calculate the amount for the debtors control column, the sales, and the output VAT. So Salama and we can have a quick cup of tea, and then we'll give you a few minutes to do these calculations. Okay, everyone, how are we doing with the calculations? Do you need a couple more minutes? How are we going there? Send me a quick thumbs up there in the Q&A section, the chat section, if you're done with your calculations, and then we can discuss them. I can give you, say, another minute or so just to go through your calculations.
Hi, Ina. No comments from the students. I'm not sure if you want to continue.
Okay, I think I'm going to
No one
give
has
them.
posted their answers. Give them another
I see we've got one brave student who's posting some answers. I think I'll just give them another minute. I think it is important that everyone should just try and see if they can do these calculations, and then we can start discussing the answers with them. Okay, thank you for those of you that did put up your answers for us in the Q&A. Let's talk through these answers, and the rest of you can just double check that you agree with me. Okay, so for the first one, let's go down there. Okay, so the first one, we had to work out the cost of sales, and we said you assume a 25% markup. Okay, and now to do the calculation, we use the sales amount excluding VAT. So you can see I'm using the 120,000, which is sales excluding VAT. And then I can either say times 100 over 125, or I can use the quicker formula, just divide by 1.25. All of these formulas, remember, they come from learning unit number 3. If you find yourself a little bit rusty on these calculations, please either go back to the notes your lecturer would have shared with you, or go and re-watch our recording. I think it was part 3 of 3 of the recordings from our previous time together. And just go and make sure you can do these calculations because they are equally important in our journals. Then the next one, we used a 25% gross margin. Okay, so now you have to be careful because remember again, a 25% markup does not give you the same answer, and it's not the same formula as a 25% gross margin. Again, we start with our sales number. So in each of these calculations, we use the sales amount excluding VAT. But in this one, to work out our cost of sales, we multiply with 75%. Remember again, you're going to use that what you want over what you have formulas to make sure you get to your cost of sales. The last one I just specifically included here because this one has got that little bit of a trick to it. In the last one, we sold to VC traders and we gave them a 10% trade discount. Now, the first thing to remember when we give trade discounts or we receive trade discounts, we always record the price after the discount. So in this instance, the full selling price was 90,000 rands, but there was a 10% trade discount. So we record only the 90%. And we work out the sales, the amount excluding VAT on the 90%. And we also work out the output VAT on that 90%. But when it comes time to work out the cost of sale, we revert back to the full 90,000. Because what you have to remember is the original cost of the inventory didn't change just because you sold it at a discount. The original price of the item sold stays exactly the same. The way how you wish to sell it or which markup you wish to use doesn't change the original cost of the item. So just make sure you don't get caught out with these kinds of transactions where there was a trade discount given on a sale. And this can be in the debtor's journal or if it was a cash sale in the cash book receipts. So please remember that and how to do your calculations. Then if we ask you for a debtor's journal and the business uses the periodic inventory system, remember then there will not be a cost of sales column. It won't be in cash book receipts and it also won't be in the debtor's journal because remember in the periodic inventory system, we do that other cost of sales calculation that I showed you in session 1. Okay, so if you weren't with me in session 1, please just go and watch that recording. We do a different cost of sales calculation when we in the periodic inventory system. Let me just quickly give you the textbook number again in case you did miss session 1. Please look again at page 193 in your textbook for those cost of sales calculations. Posting to the general ledger, we're going to debit the debtors control because it's all the credit sales made to the debtors. Again, your debtors control column is your most important column, and that's the one including VAT. And we're going to credit sales and output VAT. Cost of sales, again, will get its own separate entry where we credit inventory, debit, cost of sales. In the general ledger then, it looks like this. We're going to debit our debtors control account, credit our output VAT and sales. And remember again, I'm working with totals. I'm not going to post those 3 entries. I am only going to take up the total, so the 311,000, and that's the number that comes to the general ledger. Remember, your general ledger is not a place for detail. This is now just where we deal with total cash or total credit sales. If you want to go and practice some more of these questions, sorry, this one is just for your sales returns. So this is where your debtor returns to you items that you've sold to them that was maybe not per specification or that was damaged, that they're now returning to the business. Again, make sure you pay attention to the details. In that debtors control account, can you see we say sales and VAT, sales returns and VAT. So please, that's exactly how we want to see it in your semester test or even your exam. And as Alama said earlier, please don't forget your folios. For the sales, it's debtors journal, DJ. Sales returns, debtors allowances journal, DAJ. And here is that, oh, sorry. Here is that page 107 again. Please, if you haven't marked it yet in your textbook, then please make sure that Salama, you can still hear me, right? Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, Ina. Yes, I can.
Oh, sorry,
hear
for the
you.
minute there, I thought I turned my recording, my microphone off. Sorry, students. Let's just get back here quickly. So as I was saying, that page 107, please make sure that you really look at this page, because it's just such an excellent page. And again, I think the question was earlier, how do I know if it's duplicate or original? This is the page. This is the page that shows you if it's duplicate or original. If you want to do more questions on a debtors journal, debtors allowances journal, please then go to, again, example 5.1. or question 6.7 in your textbook. That question deals specifically with periodic inventory, dealing with a debtors journal, a cash book receipts, and a debtors allowances journal. So also another excellent question to practice before you get to the semester test. Okay, so Salama, anything we need to just talk about the journals before we move on?
I think, I just had a question regarding the discount. A student wanted to know, transaction has a discount. You did show them how. So it's the final after the discount that goes into the debtors control. Okay, but to calculate the cost of sales, it's calculated on the amount before the discounts are on the 90,000, but the amount exclusive VAT. I think this is the transaction that they are might have a challenge with here. The one on the number 3.
Okay, so let's just recap then again. So remember, in your debtors control column, you're going to include the discounted amount. So in this instance, you're going to show the 90% in your debtors control column, including that. You're going to use that number to work out your sales, excluding VAT, and your VAT output. But when you have to work out your cost of sales, then you're going to go back to the original price. So with other words, the price before the 10% trade discount. And because we're using the amount that includes VAT, that 90,000 rands included VAT, That's why you'll see in my calculations, I now also divide by 1.15. Because if you look at the other two cost of sales calculations, you'll notice in each instance we use the sales amount. And remember, the sales amount already excludes VAT. But for this last one, I can't use the sales amount because I want to go back to the original 90,000. So that's why I go to the 90,000, but then I have to take out the VAT to get to the sales number, and then I can take out the markup. So that's why for this last one, it's got the two things. It's got divide by 1.25 and divide by 1.15. It's just because I couldn't use the sales number as is for that last calculation.
Thanks, Ina. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Saloma. Right, so let's move on. I see we've got about 15 minutes, so let's see what we can still just go through in that time. One thing I just wanted to say, I know students often struggle with preparing their general ledger accounts. And what you must remember, each general ledger account only have a certain group of transactions that will go into that general ledger account. And if you can understand for each of the key ones like debtors, creditors, inventory, capital, sales, and so on, if you can in your mind understand what are the typical transactions that must go into that account, in which journal will I find these transactions? And will these transactions make the account increase or decrease? Then you will find that there will not be a general ledger account that we can ask you that you don't know how to do. So typically, if you want to do your general ledger accounts, then pick one of the accounts. So for example, let's say we pick the debtors control account. Then you say to yourself, what type of transactions do I expect to find with debtors? What type of transactions? We would expect to find credit sales, sales returns, our debtor might pay us, we might give them a discount. Then I say, okay, in which journal do I expect to find those types of transactions? And then will they increase the amount the debtor owes me, or will they decrease the amount? And then do I put it on the debit or the credit side? So if you take each of the main accounts and you spend a few minutes just thinking through each account, it will help you a lot to understand, okay, this is what must go into this account, and on where do I look for those totals, and then do I put it on the debit or the credit side. So here is your debtors control account, and so here are the typical types of transactions in this account, and the journals where they come from, and the side that they would go onto. So you can just try this little exercise with each of your general ledger accounts, and you will see it makes it a lot easier when we ask you to do an account like this. Okay, the last last topic that we want to just cover on today, spend some time on today, is your general journal entries. And again, remember in first year accounting, there's only a handful of entries that we can really test you on. We spoke a little bit about that in our first test revision when we spoke about the accounting equation. And we also said really there's only a handful of entries that we will test you on in first year. And if you understand how to do those entries, then you can answer the kind of the majority of questions in an assessment. So for the general journal again, there's really just a handful of typical entries that you need to know how to record in a general journal. And the typical entries here is when your owner contributes an asset to the business, and that can be where we're allowed to claim input VAT and when we're not. Drawings by the owner. So this is now when the owner takes inventory out of the business. Your settlement discounts, either received or granted. Interest, either income or expense. Credit losses, corrections of errors. These are sort of your typical general journal entries. And for some of these entries, again, it matters which inventory system is being used by the business. So remember, again, that's why our tip 2 of the day was to make sure you know which inventory system is being used in the question, because if you, for example, have to do general journal entries and any of these 3 entries comes up in the question, then your inventory system is going to impact which account are you going to debit or credit. When we do a general journal entry, I always think the easiest place to start is actually if you think of your general ledger. Because otherwise, sometimes the general journal entries can become kind of a little bit abstract and a little bit difficult for a student to quite understand how to put together the general journal entry. So the easiest way to do it is on your test paper or your exam paper, draw little T accounts for yourself. And then you look at the question. So say now for our example, we saying the owner contributes furniture to the business. Okay, so if I think in the general ledger, which 2 general ledger accounts are we going to use if our owner contributes furniture to the business? Let's see, can anyone quickly put it in the Q&A for us? Which 2 general ledger accounts will be impacted by this transaction? Okay, so owner contributing furniture, the 2 general ledger accounts will be capital because it's the owner contributing, and it will be furniture. Okay, so immediately we know in my general journal entry that I'm going to make, I have to have capital and furniture. Then for this one, we'll now just assume the owner can't claim any VAT. Okay, so for this one, we're going to assume we can't claim VAT. So then it will just be capital and furniture. If the question said that the receiver of revenue is allowing the business to claim input VAT, then we'll have to bring in one more general ledger account. We'll have to bring in the input VAT account. Okay, so in our general journal, then we're going to have capital, furniture, and input VAT. Now the next question is, now we have to decide of these 3 accounts, will these accounts now have to increase or decrease because of this transaction? Okay, and then you're going to come back again to your dead click. And your dead click again is now going to help you, it's going to help you now understand on which side of the account do you need to record the transaction. Okay, so the owner is contributing furniture, which means the capital has to increase. And per dead click, we know if capital increases, it's the credit side. And our assets must also increase. So again, in terms of the dead click rule, we know that is a debit. Oops, sorry, here we go. Right, so we see, okay, capital must increase, furniture must increase, input VAT must increase. So all of this, I've now quickly jotted down on my, in my answer booklet, just sort of in a margin, I've quickly written all of this down. Now that I've got all of this, all I need to do now is to write it down in the right format for a general journal entry, because I've now already got all the information I need in my little workings. So now I'm now literally just going to write down what I can see here on the screen. So what do I see here? I see that capital has to be credited, input VAT must be debited, and furniture must be debited. So I'm literally just going to write that down just exactly as I can see it in my little T accounts. So there you can see I've written it down exactly like it shows in my T accounts: furniture debit, input VAT debit, capital credit. Okay, so then it makes it much easier if you start with your little T accounts to know then exactly how to write it out when you come to your general journal. So let's just go through it again then. The correct format for a general journal entry is, first up, you must always write which general ledger accounts will be debited. So in our example, it was furniture and input VAT. Then which general ledger accounts or accounts will be credited. In our example, it was capital. Make sure that your total debits equal your total credits, because this is a double entry, so debits must equal credits. And then step number 4 is that little sentence right there at the end, in the blue, the one that's highlighted in blue, where we said the owner contributed furniture. That little sentence is called a narration, and that's sort of just a one-liner to tell me why did we need to make this general journal entry. So remember again, if you start by drawing the quick T accounts on your piece of paper, then that gives you like a visual representation of the transaction. And then you can see clearly what needs to be debited and what needs to be credited. Then all you need to do is to write that down in the general journal, starting with the accounts that you're going to debit, and then which account are you going to credit. And of course, don't forget your little narration. I think maybe we can just quickly try one entry, and you can just quickly see if you can get this entry. Let's see if you can just quickly there on your A4 paper, if you are able to write down the general journal entry for a 575 Rand settlement discount that was given to the debtor Vega suppliers. So if you want to just quickly jot down on your paper, which accounts do we need to debit, which accounts do we need to credit, and then we can look together at this answer. So I'll just give you a quick minute to see if you're able to do that. Yeah, so you can see up on my slide, I'm giving you the 4 steps that you're going to follow. So draw your little T accounts. Make sure you know which accounts do you going to debit, which accounts are you going to credit. Make sure that your amounts are the same, and then you translate it into a general journal format. Okay, let's have a look then. So one where we're giving a settlement discount of 575 Rands to the debtor. So the accounts that we're going to debit is your sales and input VAT. The account that I'm going to credit is my debtors control account. And my little narration is my settlement discounts granted. So again, you can just try and use your little T accounts to try and understand which accounts do we need to debit and which accounts do we need to credit. Remember, your total debits must equal your total credits. So both sides must add up to 575. And then don't forget your little narration. That can carry a mark as well. So don't forget to just write down quickly, why are we actually making this particular entry? Okay, at home, again, there's that example 5.1 where you can practice more general journal entries. And then question 5.4, the entire question is just dedicated to general journal entries. So definitely go and try that question 5.4 if you need more revision on these entries. From your side, Salama, anything else you want to add for our students on general journal entries?
Hi, Ina. Yes, maybe what I could say specifically to that transaction with the settlement discount, I always try to remind the students that if it's got to do for a discount given to a debtor, then always just remember that what impact will that discount have on the debtor's account, okay? That you're not increasing the balance, so always remember that discounts will decrease. And what is debtor's control? It's an asset, and when you want to decrease an asset like debtor's control, you must credit it. Okay, and also just remember that you need to know that your debtors control, your creditors control, your drawings and your capital in the general journal will always be the inclusive amounts, and then all the other contra accounts will be, for example, for the transaction year with debtors control, the contra account will be sales. So sales will be the exclusive amount, and of course the input VAT will be the VAT amount. And if it's a settlement discount that will be for a creditor, then our contra account will be trading inventory. Okay, and then that will be the exclusive amount, and the creditors control will be the inclusive amount. So please remember, discounts, the settlement discount can affect either debtors or creditors. So you just need to please remember that. Okay. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you. Okay, just our last bit. I see some of you already are ready to move on to your other commitments. So I've just got a few more minutes if you can bear with me. So the last thing I just wanted to talk about quickly was that general ledger reconciliation statement. Remember, that's now the one where we've prepared the trial balance, but now our total debits are not equal to our total credits. And then we need to go and do an investigation and find out why are these two totals not the same and where do we need to make corrections. So in your textbook, there's example 5.2 that shows you a question like that. And then there's also question 5.6. And if you want to practice one more of those types of questions, you can go to the 2021 test 2. Question number 3, that is also a question where you are asked to do the general ledger reconciliation statement. And you can see that one was for 20 marks. Here again is just the answer to that question. So if you do want to go and practice it later in your preparation for the test or the exam, once you've had a chance to try it at home, then you can come back here to this slide and you can just mark your answer against the slide. So remember, in these types of questions, we always have the incorrect trial balance. So that is then the ones where the mistakes are in. So you can see for the incorrect trial balance, the total debits and total credits are not the same. Then we make the adjustments per the adjustments that's given to us in the question. And then lastly, we use those adjustments to do the correct trial balance. And now you can see once we've done the adjustments, now our total debits and total credits are equal. But at this question, you can go and practice then at home and circle back to my slides then just to make sure you've got it all correct. Okay, so remember again then our tips for success, how to slay accounting 1A is preparation. So preparation is making sure you're attending as many of the classes with your lecturer as you can, and that you are also working at home, doing the homework questions and doing exercises at home. And then remember on that day in the test or the exam venue that you make sure you're optimizing all the little tips that I've been sharing throughout and that Salama has been sharing throughout this morning's presentation. You're sticking to the time, you're showing us workings, you're reading carefully. Because that can really make the difference in your final marks. Remember, if you're working with past papers, particularly old past papers, remember some of them might have different VAT rates depending on how old the past paper is, and also that we no longer make use of checks. Okay, so that is important when you practice older versions of the past papers. Remember, stick to the time. You've got 60 minutes to earn 50 marks. Read your required, read it with care, show us the workings, and make sure that you are writing in pen. Okay, please only use pen in your test paper. Salama, some last words of encouragement for our students?
Um, Hi, Ina. Thank you. Yes, I think I did have a previous question from a student regarding writing in pen. So thank you for just giving that reminder again. I think the student's concern was that, if you do make a mistake, it's easier just to erase it if you're writing in pencil. But please do write in pen, maybe for the workings inner. If they maybe feel comfortable, will that be fine in pencil if they do their workings in pen? But of course, the main part of the question has to be in pencil, or are we in pen, sorry, or are we very strict that everything should be in pen?
I think per policy, everything needs to be in
Think
pen.
in
Everything that needs to be marked has to be in pen.
marked. Okay.
So remember, just students, if I can add on, we don't give you marks for neatness. So I know many students are concerned that, oh, it's not going to look neat. They have to scratch things out. But
Right. Yes.
rather, remember, there's no marks for neatness. We only marking your accounting knowledge. So don't worry about neatness and so on. And also sometimes it just wastes time when you write in pencil and then try and write over it in pen. Sometimes it makes it difficult for us to read and it can waste time, which then means maybe you can't finish your paper. So rather leave your pencils at home in the assessments and just work in your pen, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Ina. Maybe I could just say, guys, just as Ina mentioned, now you have today's recording, you have the test one recording link also available to you for you to revise learning units 1 to 3, which you know is of utmost importance, especially with your VAT calculations and your markup. So you need to revise that. And just read the questions carefully. Don't overthink. I think also sometimes you overthink something, and that is when you're actually making those careless mistakes. I also just gave you another tip in your chat with regard to the general ledger reconciliation. Just read the transactions carefully, and again, use your T account. Ina mentioned earlier, when you are doing the general journal transactions, I also tell my students when answering this question specifically with regard to errors and omissions, use your T accounts, understand the error that was made, and then step number 1, you cancel the incorrect entry, and then step number 2, you would then record the correct entry. Okay, on your trial balance. And then also very important with the general ledger reconciliation, in our also try to tell them again, just remember your dead click rule. For example, if you know that you are now doing a credit error or year where the adjustment is made and it's a credit to capital, then you must know that according to the dead click rule or dead click principle, if you're going to be applying it, that a credit to capital is a plus. Okay, so always just remember your dead click principles here also when you are going to be, if you are given a question like this and you now need to calculate the correct trial balance amount, that a credit to capital is a plus. And for example, a debit to an asset is a plus. And if we look, for example, again at creditors control again, a credit to a liability account is a plus and a debit is a minus. And that you will only know if you know how to, if you know your dead click rules, and especially again for expenses also with number 5, because we said a debit to the expense account here of 110, it means we need to add that amount. Okay, so please just remember that you can apply your dead click here also to help you to know when to add and when to subtract. Okay, and all the best. I know you will be doing well. Students, just give your best on Friday. Revise as much as possible. Go through all the past test papers that Ina has also shared, and which I'm sure your lecturers has also uploaded on ARC for you. And just give your best. Thank you for all those that have attended the session today.
Thank you very much. Can everyone just give Salama, send her a quick heart if you're able, just to say thank you very much to her. She is so quick with answering and replying to all your questions. Salama, thank you as always for your help. And thank you, Bomkazi, as well for attending our session today as well from the IIE side. Thank you for being with us in the classroom. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We will be, through your lecturers, sending out a survey to understand whether you are enjoying these classes and what we can maybe improve on for our exam revision class. So when you do get the link for the survey, please help us by just letting us know what else we can add to make sure these sessions are really of optimal a benefit to you and in your preparation for your assessments. Join in with Salama in wishing you well. Just remember to breathe in the assessment and read carefully. And then we look forward to seeing you for the exam revision class in June. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today.